Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me in this video. Welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Quynh, and on my channel I make fashion, beauty, and lifestyle videos. I am here on my back patio because this has been one of my favorite places lately, and I just absolutely love it. Plus, it's kind of later in the day and I have a lot better lighting here than in my normal filming room. So as you guys can see, I am now wearing a wedding band, and that's because I am officially married. My new husband and I actually got married on April 23rd, 2021. We actually got engaged back in November 2018, and we had a pretty long engagement, and that was because we were planning on getting married on January 23rd, 2021 in Jamaica. We knew when we got engaged that we wanted a destination wedding because we lived in Austin and all of our friends and family were out of state. So we figured if we were going to get everyone to travel to come to us for our wedding, we would have them travel somewhere beautiful and make it memorable for them as well. So we decided to just do a destination wedding in Jamaica, which was like one of our dream locations. So we had everything planned out, and of course, as you guys all know, the pandemic happened. So sadly, we had to cancel our Jamaica wedding. And I know for some of you guys, you already know all this information from previous videos, so bear with me. I'm just trying to catch everyone up in this video. So we had to downsize our wedding because of the pandemic, and we decided to have a family-only wedding in Austin for April 3rd, 2021, which we had already planned. And then we found out about the new variant. And at that time, we really didn't know very much about it, and we didn't know how safe or dangerous it was. So we decided to just go ahead and cancel that wedding as well and look into eloping. So that brings me to this video. Now that we've already married and we got our pictures back, the wedding ended up beautiful. I wanted to share with you guys what we did for our elopement, and hopefully that will be helpful for anyone else who is trying to plan a low-key or like a downsized wedding, not having to compromise on it still being beautiful and still having it be like a very special day. So hopefully the information in this video can help you guys also if you're looking into an elopement or even just a very, very small intimate wedding. So the first thing I want to talk about is our actual wedding, what we did for it. I want to kind of break everything down so you guys can get a better idea of what we did and how our day went. And then I want to talk about the vendors that we decided on going with, and then also our budget, because that was a huge issue for us. And then lastly, I want to talk about things that I would change if I was able to do it again. So first and foremost, let's talk about our wedding. We had our wedding at the Vineyards at Chapel Lodge in South Austin. The property itself is absolutely stunning. It's on about 50 acres. And when you drive in, there's this long drive that goes through a field of bluebonnets. There's like a little pond there. There is like a small vineyard, and there's big oak trees pretty much everywhere in the property. I saw the pictures online and I absolutely loved it. So as I mentioned before, we decided to have an elopement with just the two of us, our photographer, the officiant, which was the photographer's husband, and our florist. We didn't want to ask any of our parents to fly here and risk exposure to them, especially since we didn't know very much about the new variants at the time. Fortunately, Jordan's dad and stepmom ended up moving here a few months before our wedding, and since they were already here, it wasn't that much riskier for them to actually be at the wedding, and so that was actually really nice to have some family during our wedding day. So our wedding was supposed to be outside underneath this massive oak tree that was just really beautiful, and the day of our wedding we pulled up to the venue and it was pouring. You know, after 2.5 years of being engaged and planning our wedding, having to cancel our wedding twice, and having to plan 3 weddings pretty much, I pulled up and having it actually be pouring on our wedding day was, I don't know, I think at that time I was just so stressed out that I didn't even care anymore, because I figured like, we're just gonna do it, this is gonna work out, it's gonna, like, you know, it might not be as pretty as what we had planned, but we're here, it's gonna happen, whatever, at this point. But luckily the venue actually had like an indoor space, and since it was just so few people, we were able to set up in the courtyard, and it was covered. And honestly guys, like, it ended up being so beautiful because although it was raining, the overcast gave the perfect lighting, and then the florist did such an amazing job with the flower arrangements and the arch. It honestly looked stunning, and looking back at it, I'm really glad that we had our wedding where it was, in that courtyard, rather than outside underneath that huge oak tree, because I feel like that would have been a little bit too big. Whereas the space that we had was a lot more intimate, and it felt more fitting of a smaller, intimate elopement wedding. But other than the rain, everything went so smoothly. Our actual ceremony only lasted about 10 minutes. Then after that, we just took pictures, and then we went to cake cutting and then a champagne toast. And since we didn't have any guests, we just toasted all of our vendors, which was really nice and sweet. And then after that, we just took more pictures, and that was pretty much our wedding. We left the venue, went to lunch with Jordan's dad and stepmom. Then we came home, kind of unwound a little bit, took a nap because I actually didn't sleep very well the night before. And then we went to a really nice dinner with just the two of us that night, and that was pretty much our wedding day. It was very different from what we had envisioned originally, but it was also very perfect, and it was such a beautiful day, and I honestly don't regret it. Okay, so next let's talk about the vendors and what it took to get our wedding together and our wedding to look the way it did. So the first vendor I booked was our photographer. We knew going into it that we wanted to keep our wedding date, which is 4/3/2/1. That's actually our second wedding date, because we had to cancel the first one, we had to cancel our second wedding, and the one thing that we wanted to at least keep was that amazing date, because that date only comes, you know, once, 4/3/2/1. It just was perfect. So we wanted to try to keep that if possible. And I knew I wasn't able to book any venues that are actually nice for that date, especially during like their normal wedding times, because it's gonna already be booked up, and we were only like a month and a half, 2 months out at this point. So I decided to just try to reach out to these vendors and see if they had any morning slots that we could rent out from them, because most of the time these vendors, you know, book out in the afternoon and then all throughout the night. And so in the morning time, most of the time they're available. So if they're able to make a few extra $100 for another wedding, that would be a win-win situation for both of us. So I reached out to a bunch of venues I thought were really beautiful, and a couple of them got back to me, and the Vineyards at Chapel Lodge got back to me, and we were able to go check out the venue, and it was honestly so stunning. When we pulled into the property, we just knew it was like the one. It was so beautiful. It was exactly like the property that we would love to have eventually, and so we decided that was it. We were gonna go with that. Of course, the venue had already booked out the 4/3/2/1 date for another wedding, but they were able to work with us and let us rent the property for 2 hours for that morning. So we were supposed to have it from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And I paid, I want to say it was like $300 per hour, which is like a little bit expensive, but honestly it was like so beautiful, and at this point it was just kind of like let's just do it, because there aren't very many options. It's just so close to the date, and if we want to keep that date, we kind of have to either pay the price or go somewhere else. So we decided to go ahead and book that venue, and honestly it was perfect. So the second vendor that we worked with was our photographer. Now, we had booked our photographer when we moved the wedding to Austin. We had a different photographer for Jamaica, but unfortunately she was already booked up for the date that we wanted, so we had to find someone local, and we booked this amazing photographer, and we put down our deposit for her for our family only wedding, so the second wedding that we planned. And fortunately she was able to work with us on changing the plans a little bit when we canceled our family only wedding and turned it into an elopement. So instead of working that night, she would be working that morning, and instead of having to pay for the entire package that we had originally planned on, she said that she was going to just charge us for an hourly rate, which was only 2 hours. So it ended up being just a few $100s for us. I think it was like $200 to $300 per hour, so it cost us like around like $400 to $600. I don't remember exactly, but so that was like really nice, and it worked out perfectly because that ended up saving us a lot of money as well. No, we still haven't used up all of the deposit we put down because we're still planning on having that family only wedding in the future once this pandemic dies down. But it was just really nice that she was able to work with us and offer another package for just our elopement. And honestly, I am so appreciative for our photographer. She was amazing. She went above and beyond. Obviously, she's very talented, as you can see with these pictures. She did such an amazing job. Like these pictures are just stunning. It was honestly everything that I could have hoped for. But she took it a step further by offering her husband's services as the officiant. So he had gotten ordained in the past, which was perfect, so he could legally marry us, and she offered his services for free. So again, that saved us a lot of money, because I think normally it's around like $400 for an officiant or something like that. No, because he hadn't actually married anyone prior to that, they didn't actually want to take any money, but we did give them a pretty good tip on top of their services as a thank you. And then lastly, I want to talk about our florist, who was absolutely amazing, and we honestly lucked out finding her, like literally. So I actually came across her work on our old neighborhoods Facebook group. Someone had posted about recommendations for a florist, and she had posted, because she lived in the neighborhood as well, and she posted some of her work. I checked it out, and I just on a whim like reached out to her. We had this conversation. I told her everything I wanted. I sent her a bunch of inspiration photos, and she was able to take that, give suggestions on what we can do within my budget. And so she was able to deliver, honestly, above and beyond what I was even envisioning. The florals from our wedding was so beautiful. My bouquet was exactly what I wanted. So my shoes were Manolo Blahnik blue shoes, and so I wanted that little pop of blue in the bouquet so that it matches the shoes. And then she created these beautiful arches for our ceremony, and then also she decorated the cake, and everything she did was within our budget, so that was so nice. If you guys are in the Austin area, I highly recommend you reaching out to her, because I think Katie is so talented. And that day I looked at the florals and I honestly thought that it was like a dream. Like it just created such a beautiful ambiance, and everything just worked out perfectly. I honestly think that our wedding would not have gone as smoothly as it did without the team that we had. Everyone was amazing, everyone got along really well, and it was so much fun. So since we had such an intimate elopement, we didn't want it to just be a ceremony and then like a bunch of pictures afterwards. We wanted it to feel like an actual wedding. So when I was planning it, I decided to go ahead and have like a cake cutting, and then have a wedding cake, and then champagne toast and everything. And I'm so glad that we decided on that, because not only did it give us more opportunity for different types of pictures, it actually just made it feel like a whole wedding that was just crammed into like a couple of hours, and it was so much fun. So for our cake cutting table, we just used like a round nightstand that my father and mother-in-law had, and we took a curtain, like a sheer curtain, and just put it over it, and the photographer was able to kind of hide the top of the curtain really well, so it just looked like a tablecloth. And then I got a really cheap $3 Target cake stand that I had for years, but it was just like really simple white cake stand. And then we ordered a cake from a local bakery here in New Braunfels. I sent them a picture of what we wanted, and they nailed it. And then the florist put on the flowers on the cake, which made it just absolutely stunning. And then my mother-in-law was so sweet. She went to all of these thrift stores and found like a cake tray and like a cake cutter spatula thing, and that actually made it really nice as well. We obviously, as you guys can see, we didn't have a knife, we couldn't find one, and so I just used like a butter knife, which worked out fine. And then we got some champagne glasses, and Jordan's mom sent us a bottle of Dom Perignon, which ended up being the perfect bottle of champagne for our cake cutting and for our wedding. So everything just worked out really well, and the pictures, everything just turned out beautifully. So that was what we pretty much did to create more of like an wedding ambiance, even though it was just so intimate and so small, and it made it really feel like a true wedding because of it. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the one regret that I have with our elopement and what I would do differently. And of course this is in hindsight, but I wish that we would have plan for my parents and Jordan's mom and stepdad to come for our wedding. You know, as I mentioned before, we didn't know how bad the variant was, and so we wanted to play it safe, but obviously it ended up not being that bad, and they could have totally flown in, and I think that would have been a lot nicer to be able to have my dad walk me down the aisle. That was probably my main regret. I think had our parents come, I wouldn't even need to do like another wedding, but I really want my dad to walk me down the aisle, and I want to have all these family pictures with me in a wedding dress, and like obviously Jordan dressed up as well. So I think that's kind of like the one thing that makes me still want to do like a regular wedding. But had they came for our elopement, I think we would have been fine with just what we did, because it was so beautiful, it was so perfect, and I couldn't have asked for more. Like that, it was such a perfect, beautiful day. And yeah, I highly recommend it if you guys are not into like big fancy weddings and you want to do something more intimate, more low-key, less stressful. Something like the elopement that we did was perfect in my opinion. Also, I giggled the entire time we were getting married, and so that would not been as fun had that been videotaped with a bunch of guests around us. But because it was just the two of us, we were good. no one witnessed it. Anyway guys, that is pretty much it for our elopement and the information on our elopement. I hope you guys found the information in this helpful, especially if you guys are trying to plan an elopement wedding yourself. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to click on that subscribe button right there and hit that bell notification so you can see more videos like this. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.